Today we're going to be checking out the Boox Tab Ultra C, a new color Kaleido-based e-ink tablet from Boox. And if my hopes are correct, I think this is going to be the first truly compelling color e-ink tablet for productivity. It's also one of the first, if not the first, 300 pixel per inch tablet from Boox. And I'm excited to compare it to the Kindle Scribe and then also to those other 227 pixel per inch tablets that we're more used to using. I also didn't get a chance to review the original Tab Ultra, so this will serve as double duty as my first experience with a Tab Ultra device and also a Kaleido color screen. So let's get into it. You guys also get to see me fail at opening things, which I'm pretty good at. Failing, that is. All right, I think we finally found it. There's two boxes. Okay, so it looks like we have both the Tab Ultra C and the keyboard cover. I'm also excited to see how this compares to the remarkable Type Folio and whether this is a viable alternative to that. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's start first with the actual tablet itself. That should give you an idea of what the actual packaging looks like. It's a pretty common look for Boox, but honestly, their packaging quality is really good. There's another Boox logo, and there's the tablet itself. Put that there. What is this? Probably a charging cable, a stylus. USB-A to USB-C, and what looks like a Pen Pro 2. Let's take a look. Yeah, a Pen Pro 2, which is a great stock pen. Put those to the side for now. And let's take a look at the actual tablet. And let's take this cover off. Nice and solid. So it's this dark gray graphite color, not like the green on the Note Air 2 Plus. So here's a comparison of the Tab Ultra C and the Note Air 2 Plus. Here, let me turn on my Note Air 2 Plus while we check this out. Pull that to the side. All right, so it's powered off. And they've got this little strip across the back. It's got this Boox pattern. And then this camera hump, which is supposedly infamous. I don't know, it doesn't bother me too much. At least not yet. As long as this thing doesn't rock too badly. It does have a little bit of a rock. I'll know more about how that affects me after I've used it for a bit, but it doesn't upset me on initial use. Honestly, the Boox tablets tend to slide because they don't have those feet on the back, so maybe this will actually cause this tablet to slide a bit less than they typically do. All right, before we go too much further, we should probably talk about the specs. It's a 10.3 Kaleido 3 screen that has 4,096 different colors it supports. It's 300 pixel per inch in black and white mode, and it's 150 pixels per inch in color mode. I'm curious to see how that works with mixed content. So are the black particles always 300 pixel per inch and the color particles are 150 pixels per inch? Or if you have any color, it all goes to 150. So that's one of the things that I don't know that I'm excited to find out. Front light uses capacitive touch and stylus, no big deal there. Has an octa-core processor. I'm curious to see how fast this is compared to like the Tab X, for example. 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. A 16 megapixel rear camera. It runs Android 11. Has 5G and 2.4G Wi-Fi. Bluetooth 5.0. It has a micro SD slot for expansion. Uses USB-C. Has a mic and a speaker. And a 6,300 milliamp battery. All right, let's actually boot it up. So if you hold this button here at the top, there's a little light up here. There's a little blue light right there. I don't know if you can see that over there. Here, yeah, you can see it. I'm curious to see if this is as white as it gets, because if this is the true white, then it is significantly darker than the other tablets from Boox. So the front light just turned on, and that definitely has a different feel when the light is on. Okay, let's set it up. Anyway, we'll come back. We'll come back to the Note Air. So we'll set up our time. In general, I think it should shut down if I don't use it for a day. I like the gestures at the bottom. Multi-tab switcher, back home, and e-ink center. I may not leave the e-ink center there, but in general, that's good. I don't want either of those. Now it's starting up. And that was pretty quick. Okay, so yes, you do immediately notice that the screen is much darker. Let's see if we can tweak that a little bit. So again, let's compare this. I'm gonna grab the Tab X actually. So you'll immediately notice that the outlines of these icons are significantly sharper on the Ultra C, but also that it has a bit more of a blue light. Let's see what our lights are set to. So, okay, so let me bring this maybe down a little bit. We'll bring this up again. We'll bring this up a bit. I'd like this to be a bit warmer. It stays a little dull gray naturally. So with a little effort, you can get them pretty close. I find that the Tab Ultra has a little bit more of a magenta screen, whereas the Tab X is more of a green screen, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I also see like a little bit of ghosting here. Can I put this on refresh? So we're in HD setting. Okay, yeah, it refreshed when I did that. I should also probably log in. Give me a second, I'll log into this device. So I've logged in, set the code to my phone. So we are now logged in to both devices. Interestingly, both devices are about the same height when the Tab X is in landscape mode, and the Tab X is about twice the width of the Ultra C. So think of the Tab X almost as two Tab Ultras, if you will. It's not quite as thick. The Tab Ultra is a bit thicker than the Tab. Sorry, this is a mouthful with Tab in front of everything. The X and the Ultra C are different thicknesses in that the Ultra C is significantly thicker. Not necessarily an issue, but just kind of a different form factor, or kind of more of an iPad type thickness. Actually, I've got an iPad. Hold tight. If I take my iPad out of its case, it's a bit of an unfair comparison with one in a case and the other not. And my daughter's been using this, so it's filthy. They are very similar thicknesses. The Tab Ultra C is a bit thicker than the iPad Pro, if you've got one of those for comparison. Maybe 2 millimeters thicker, if I were to guess. But overall, pretty similar. Yeah. In the hand, feels like an iPad. All right, so let's actually take it for a spin. I'm gonna get the Tab X out of here. The first thing I care about is notes. And let's just start a new notepad unique to the Ultra. Okay, so that's text mode. It has handwriting mode. We'll try text out later. And it's not set up for left hand yet. Let me go do that. There we go. Now it's optimized for lefty. Okay, that looks good. Stroke eraser. I like a slightly thicker pen than that. Try 4. And I'm excited to try these colors out. So it doesn't have the same screen protector as the Note series, so it doesn't feel quite as much as paper, but it doesn't bother me either. Yeah, the writing feels smooth and responsive. I don't immediately notice the difference in screen protector when writing. Like, it doesn't feel like writing on glass the way an iPad does, which is excellent. Well done. It does have a slightly different sound, but like that sound. Sounds more like a mechanical pencil. I'm hoping the microphone picks that up. All right, so we can see like a little bit of jaggies. I'm expecting if I leave and come back that those will now be anti-aliased, and they do. These look great. Yeah, the quality on this screen is excellent. If I pixel peep a little bit, and I don't think you're gonna be able to see this on the camera, you can see what appears to be the color grid, which I don't feel like I've ever noticed that on the other eInk devices. It's gonna be interesting trying to show this to you. But yeah, you can definitely see the grid in a way that you don't see on the other devices. Obviously you see pixelation on the other devices just because they're 227 pixels per inch, but this is really sharp. You just see the grid. At normal viewing distances though, you'll never notice it. All right, let's check out color. So one of the things I'm curious about is if I write a sentence and I want to highlight it, what does the highlighting look like? All right, so the highlighter is default in gray, which is not ideal. No. Does it fix when I leave and come back? Oh, their handling for the highlighter is kind of lame. I'm hopeful that this is just a software issue and they just haven't set the black ink to overprint over the yellow, but that looks a little lame. So here, let me try and demonstrate this. So if I have a black circle, so let's just do like a big pen brush to try and demonstrate this. Hold on, the color doesn't, okay. What I was trying to do there is I was trying to have a black pen and a lemon highlighter. The color sticks with you regardless of tool, which is really annoying because what I want is a yellow highlighter and a black pen, but that's not as easy as it would seem on the surface. So let's, sorry, I'm failing miserably. Let's take a brush, make it black. We're gonna fill in a black circle. Nice, nice, beautiful black circle-ish. If I switch this over to highlighter and I make it lemon, what I would want to happen is it overprints. So like you would only really see the yellow in the negative spaces. So like here, let's do an eraser here. Oh crap, I have a stroke eraser, which is what I want. Oh, that's interesting. It's like showing me the strokes that it's affecting. Anyway, that's kind of interesting. I mean, if we take the highlighter, I would only want to see the highlighter in those areas. So let's switch pages. Yeah. I'm confident that they can fix this with a software tweak. I don't think this is a limitation of the screen itself, but who knows? Someone can probably let me know down in the comments. The writing feel is great. It's just a shame that the highlighter doesn't work the way a highlighter works. But overall, writing experience feels good. The quality of the writing after the fact also looks really good. Like this is significantly sharper than on the Tab X. Let me grab Tab X and put this side by side. Hopefully you guys will be able to see the differences on screen there, but the writing is significantly sharper at 300 pixels per inch. I also have a thicker brush here, but you can tell. It's pretty nice. It's fun to have color. I'm gonna have to think about how to implement color into what I do with my sketching. A lot of what I do at work is sketching lo-fi wireframes to inform what I'll do later in hi-fi wireframes, but to get the conversation started about, is this directionally where we want to go? One of the things I often do is shading for different areas to try and give you an idea of what to expect. And I often use a highlighter for that, so let me switch to the highlighter. Let me add a tool, hold on. Okay, so if I create a tool, I can do the workflow that I'm trying to do. Okay, I'm sorry. I figured it out. I was just a little slow on the uptick. Okay, so if I do something very unintuitive, I can get what I want. Like okay, I've proven that the overprinting does work. The issue is the highlighter doesn't behave like a highlighter. So, books. If I'm in the highlighter tool, overprint black over color. Like, not like that, like that. That's what it should look like if I'm using the highlighter tool. All right, so back to what I was saying is I'll draw some sort of a mock-up. If an area is shaded, I'll try and demonstrate that with shading. And so I would grade this in to give you a feel. This is definitely like way higher fidelity. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the highlighters also overprint. So the highlighters also double up on themselves. We'd have some content here. Yeah, writing experience feels great. I keep triggering a page slide with my palm. But overall, writing feels good. No complaints there. It's interesting that one of the things I've noticed with the Boox devices is these size numbers don't really seem to match. So over here, I have a 1.25 line width pen. And over here, I have a 4 line width pen. And I would argue the pen thicknesses are not the same across Boox devices. And I assume that has something to do with the display density. But anyway, something to be aware of, that if you move between Boox devices, you're gonna have to adjust your pens accordingly. So yeah, so the highlighter, a little disappointing, but there's definitely a way for them to solve this. The screen tech is great. I just want to be clear about something. You're going to want to use the front light on the Tab Ultra C. The screen itself is just much more dull. It's like a less bright white piece of paper. When you use the front light, it accounts for that, and it normalizes for it a bit, but just something to be aware of. In my case, I already use the front light on all of my Boox devices anyway, and pretty much any eInk device that has it, I use it just because I like to brighten up the screen ever so slightly in case the lighting's not great. In this case, the lighting's actually pretty good, but full disclosure. I think that's all there is to say about the writing experience. If you've ever used a Boox device, the writing experience here is the same, except for you have color. So a lot more possibilities, and I think people will really enjoy it. Another thing to call out is the colors are all pastel in nature. So like you can get a lot of pastel colors, but I don't know that you're gonna get any really deep colors. Can I pick a custom color? Or I do get a little bit of that camera bump wobble there. Not awful though, but you do notice it a little bit. All right, let's get the Tab X out of here. But my guess is if you're thinking about the Ultra C, you're probably trying to read some color content. So let's get some color books onto here and let's take a look. We're gonna use Bookstrop. So you go to push.boox.com and I need a code again, and then I can get on here. So now I just need to upload, I've got a couple of things on here, but let's add some PDFs. All right, so it received. Okay, so now we just need to send those. That's not what I want. I just want them to go to the books. They're already here. That's weird. I got one book, but not the other books. I'm obviously doing something wrong, but I feel a little slow. Here, let's try this. Move to push, confirm. Oh, yeah, they're all here. All right, so we've got some comics. And should I unfairly compare this to an iPad? I feel like I probably have to. So there's the side-by-side comparison. Obviously you can see that the iPad has significantly more glare. It's also closer to the light, but the reading experience in the default iPad app, not great. I feel like there's probably a way to do this that's better. I don't read a lot of comics on the iPad, that's clear. All right, let's just go with this for now. So significantly duller, but still very, very usable. I don't want OCR. Having the color is nice. Notice that the reds don't really pop. There's unfortunately a lot of red in this particular comic, but the quality, really good. I still think I would rather read it on the iPad just because the color is such an important part of what makes this, but if you have eye strain or don't want to look at an iPad all day, this is viable. Here we go, we get into some greens now. The greens convey a lot better. That yellow really washed out, but the sharpness is there. Overall, very usable. Here, what happens if I zoom it? Okay, so we're getting to the limit of what the PDF has, but it's rendered correctly. So overall, I think a much better comic book reading experience than any of the other eInk tablets that I've used. But if it's a high color comic, the iPad still probably has the better experience, at least from vivid, high color. And as far as comic book reading goes, I would say this is probably somewhere between a newspaper and an actual magazine. I would say the iPad is probably an unrealistic comparison because this is even more high color than you would get even in a really nice comic book. I'd say a really nice comic book is like somewhere like right here, which is much more vivid than what you get on the Ultra C, but less vivid than what you get here on the iPad. Like you just can't print some of these colors. Like this high pop off the page. I mean, maybe with gloss you get a little bit closer, but you wouldn't have this distinction between this bright white and this high color. This is almost HDR-esque. But overall, very readable. Pretty good. The last thing I want to try and cover really quickly is the keyboard experience. So let's jump into that. Let's pull this to the side and the Boox Tab Ultra cover. Oh, there's some steps. Let's take a look at those. Here, I'll do this sideways so that you can see it. So I would assume I lay the tablet there. That had a nice clean lock. And then, okay, and that folds to the back. Okay, recognized it just fine. And it's gonna be a little bit hard to demonstrate this for you guys on screen, but just bear with me. So it beeps every time I pull this thing out. Automatically rotate to landscape mode when the keyboard is connected. Yes, please. There's a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. You can get to those with Command 1. Again, slightly smaller form factor, similar to the Type Folio. Has a command, function, alt, and control key. And you do function, page up, home, end. Looks promising. So let's go right. So now a question I have is, can I type in an existing document? So like, what happens if I start typing? Okay. It adds what looks like a note. So what happens to that? It's not clear to me what I just did. All right, so I have to play around with that more, but for now, let's go ahead and just create a new notebook. It's got a little bit of bounce when I do tap the screen. All right. Text notes cannot be synced onto firmware version older than 3.3.1. Okay. Initial impressions on the keyboard are the key travel is good. Not great, but good. It's not MacBook levels of key travel. Let me grab the Type Folio. So here's the Type Folio. Just want to verify that when I say the key travel is similar, that it actually is similar. Yeah, the key travel between the two is pretty darn similar, if not the exact same. They have a slightly different sound, but they're almost the same. One thing I do notice in use is I was missing the backspace key a little bit. If I use this keyboard all the time, I'm sure that'll be a non-issue, but at least on first use, I do notice it. But yeah, you could totally type on this. If you're used to using a Microsoft Surface, this will work just fine. And it's honestly better for your eyes. You'll obviously want to turn off this on-screen keyboard thing, which I know there's a way to do it. I've done it on my other devices, but this is doable. I want to reserve the rest of my comments on typing on this until I've had more time to use it, and just don't think you can make a reasonable judgment on what the experience is like after 5 minutes. So that's probably a good place to wrap up on this unboxing. Initial thoughts on the Tab Ultra C. Screen quality has improved a lot. It's a little dull as far as like dynamic range and contrast, but the additional sharpness is much appreciated, and the ability to have color is also excellent. Would love to see Boox improve their note-taking app a little bit to have better highlighting support, but overall, if you liked the Tab Ultra, you'll love the Tab Ultra C and the much better quality screen. I'm also really interested to see how this will affect future Boox devices. Will we get a Note Air device along this line? I'm going to use the device a bit more and expect a full review over the coming weeks. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.